I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down.
Well, Russian resources are clearly and rapidly depleting. This is pretty measurable by all the, imaginable merits and criteria. Financially, for instance, Russian government rainy day fund, the liquidity part of the National Wealth Fund, is nearly out of cash. It had reduced to about 1/3 where it was when Putin invaded Ukraine full scale 3 years ago. Budget deficits are running wild. The government cannot control them. Last year's federal budget deficit exceeded the initial figure approved a year ago by 2.2 times. And we just saw a figure released by the Russian Ministry of Finance for January this year, 2025. The deficit in federal spending for January alone is already 1.5 times higher than the overall planned deficit for the whole of this year. And we see that because of the sanctions, Russia's current accounts balance is rapidly shrinking. Russia cannot really move on with import substitution because of lack of access to critical technology and capital investment skill because of the Western sanctions, which is why imports are growing substantially while export revenues are stagnating. We saw December and January like near zero trade balance and negative current account balance also because of the continuing capital outflows. We have wild shortage of manpower, both at the labor market and in the military at the battlefield in Ukraine. You can basically look at the recent reports by independent Russian media, which indicate that the intensity of the movement of advanced movement of Russian troops is down to long month lows. It's back to sometime in June, May last year, and we saw the peak of advances in the October-November period, but now Russia's ability to advance militarily had rapidly shrank. We see significant caps in the Russian military production. Also, it's been growing recently, but it is also significantly exhausted in terms of available manufacturing capacity. Russia has difficulties acquiring new high-precision machinery because of the sanctions and blocked supplies of critical technology from the Western markets. So on all fronts, also inflation is becoming a persistent economic problem. Central bank can do little about it because basically the reason for inflation, as explained by central bank, is the output gap. They keep injecting a lot of money to boost military production and to boost other civilian sectors, but the output, the supply side is not catching up because of the same lack of technology due to sanctions. So, I mean, coming back to this idea of peace talks and negotiations, just a few more months with this extreme resource depletion and exhaustion on all fronts, and Russia would have been in a much more vulnerable negotiating position, and it would have probably agreed to give away major concessions because it cannot advance militarily, cannot sustain the war effort for much longer. So again, coming back to my initial comments, what we see and this rush into signing something into Russia is extremely premature because we're just nearing the critical resource depletion levels on the Russian side, financial resources, manpower, military production. I think really giving away concessions to Russia at this point is premature because the position for the West and for Ukraine, obviously, in the next few months will be far more advantageous with Russian resources getting rapidly depleted. I think I'll stop here.